Hello, everyone. I'm Kamraun.
And I'm Billy. Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast, home of your two favorite professional digressors and creators of the Malazan Brotherhood.
Today, we will be discussing Book 3, Chapter 17 of Memories of Ice, a novel in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. This is part 3 of our coverage of this chapter.
This podcast series is intended to be a companion to reading or listening to the books set in the Malazan universe. It's not a book review, and it is most definitely not a replacement to reading the books. Both Kamraun and I know this to be the best fantasy story ever written, and we want to share our love of this series with you.
We'll be covering the events of the books in a linear fashion. There will be spoilers for those that haven't read the books. We'll try not to spoil anything prior to us covering that portion of the respective book.
Today's episode contains descriptions of the aftermath of extreme violence and is thus not suitable for children.
Our show is listener-supported. If you'd like to support us, we'd really appreciate that. You can do so by visiting our Patreon link on our website at horsefrogproductions.com. Currently, we're posting ad-free episodes on Patreon weekly.
Also, we would really like to hear from you, so send any feedback or comments that you have to contact@horsefrogproductions.com.
This week, we have a hilarious addition from one of our Patreon members, Scott. Quote, on the Chapter 17 Part 1 episode, at 25 minutes and 15 seconds, Kamraun wonders about where the Segula are. Billy speculates that they are on a shopping spree in One-Eye Cat, and that made me laugh out loud while I was driving, and then I went down a rabbit hole. I imagine that there's a strip mall somewhere on the Segula Island with a bunch of chain stores in it, and one of those is Forever 21. But that is a whole different meaning to the Segula. The poor Segula 21st has been stuck at that level for decades and can't ever move up. He or she is just always right behind the Segula 20th and can never get over the hump. So Forever 21 is an exclusive store just for that one person, but also a constant reminder of their inability to advance further up the hierarchy. Anyway, that was my digression. Visualizing a mid-60s Segula who has been stuck at the 21st level forever, but still shopping at Forever 21 for the hottest fashion trends of the summer. All while Gareth, Baeljag, and Tool are kicking Kachane ass and chasing the seer through Amtos Falak. End quote. Man, I lost it when I was reading this. That's a hilarious image and really a funny side scenario that could potentially exist.
Absolutely amazing, Scott. Thank you so much. That was great, man.
I think about some rivalries I've had with people. Say it's in a video game like Street Fighter or World of Warcraft or something. You just can't ever beat them.
Yeah.
Being stuck there. And imagine being in a society where that is everything. Trying to progress and get better. And then there's always that person that you just can't beat. That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
That poor person.
I guess it says something for his training that even at 60-something years old, or however what would be considered old age, that they're still pretty good enough. They're good enough to attain to the 21st. It's better than I can attain to.
You say that. I mean, if you grew up in that society, who knows what you'd be capable of.
Oh, if I grew up in that society, yes. I'm talking about if it's just dropped buck naked in there with a sword. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't make it. The guys that go and swim up the beach would kill me real fast. Throw some toddlers at me with some toothpicks would probably hurt me in that bunch.
Yeah, the kids are probably savages.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
I'm imagining their life. I always imagine that kind of, I've not seen it, but I understand the concept. Is it Battle Royale? Is it kids stuck on an island kind of?
Oh, yeah, they were teenagers, though, from high school, I think.
Okay.
Hunger Games is similar
something
concept,
similar,
right?
A little more young adult, I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, mixed in with some bleak 70s sci-fi references just to make us older people a little happy. But yeah, could you imagine that bunch? My word. It's real Lord of the Flies with that lot. Well, quite literally.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, thanks for the laugh, Scott. It really
Yes.
got me good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Chapter 17, Part 3. We pick up the chapter with Itkovian and the last remaining Grey Swords within the late Prince Jelarken's palace. 112 soldiers remained in fighting condition, though not one was free of wounds. 17 Grey Swords lay dead or slowly dying along one wall. The air reeked of sweat, urine, and rotting meat. The Great Hall's entranceways were framed in blackening blood, scraped clean on the tiles for firm footing. On the throne, his skin roughly sewn back onto his half-devoured form, sat Prince Jelarken, eyeless, teeth exposed in a grin that grew wider as the lips lost their moisture and shrank away on all sides. Death's broadening smile, a precise poetic horror, worthy to hold court in what the Great Hall had become. A young prince who had loved his people, now joined to their fate. What a horrific image. And fittingly, I just got an email this week that notified us that when listeners search for disturbing themes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Horse Frog Productions' The Malazan Brotherhood appears as result 15.
15? Dang it. I was shooting for number one. Well, At least we'll always have Bulgaria. Number 5 in climbing in the arts and whatever. I'm sorry.
Books
I'm so
and
sorry.
arts are separate
and
categories,
arts.
but we are number 6, sir. I don't think we've climbed there. Yeah.
6, I'm so sorry.
But that surprises me that of all of the crime podcasts that are out there,
dude.
that we're showing up as 15 for disturbing themes. That's crazy.
I have to now Google this. Just type in disturbing themes. Disturbing themes?
Yeah, but it's going to be specifically if you search within Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Oh, never mind. Move along, sir.
Also, I wonder who had the job of sewing that man back together. Talk about nightmare fuel.
Unless you're Ed Gein.
Yeah.
Looking for his perfect woman in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. I'm so sorry.
Poor recruits, man. It's bad enough all the stuff they've been through already, but to have to, you take the body off. I don't want to go into it. Talk about disturbing themes.
I'm going to flash back to, as a child, one of the things that has always stuck with me with the David Letterman show, he used to do the top 10. I don't know if the top 10 worst jobs in New York. This is early 80s, 90s. I'm probably still in high school. Number 1 worst job in New York City, mob corpse debloater. This one is always so stuck with me. It's not too far from that. It's like, oh no, tell me, I don't want to be on that detail. It's like, I'll Rochambeau you for it.
Terrible.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like Hannibal Lecter cleanup crew.
Yeah. Oh my word. I don't want that job. No, thank you.
No. It was time to leave. Itkovian stood near the main entrance, studying what was left of his gray swords. They in turn faced him, motionless, stone-eyed. To the left, 2 Kappan recruits held the reins of the 2 remaining war horses. The lone Gidrath, his companion had died moments earlier, paced with head sunk low, shoulders hunched, back and forth along the wall behind the ranked mercenaries. A battered longsword was held in each hand, the one on the left bent by a wild swing that had struck a marble column 2 nights past. Itkovian thought to address his soldiers, if only to honor decorum, but now, as he stood scanning their faces, he realized that he had no words left within him, none to dress what mutually bound them together, none capable of matching the strangely cold pride he felt at that moment. Finally, he drew his sword, tested the straps holding his shield arm in place, then turned to the main entranceway. The hallway beyond had been cleared of corpses, creating an avenue between the stacked bodies to the outer doors. Itkovian strode down the ghastly aisle, stepped between the leaning, battered doors, and out into sunlight. Following their many assaults, the Panions had pulled their fallen comrades away from the steps of the approach, had used the courtyard to haphazardly pile the bodies, including those still living, who then either expired from wounds or from suffocation. Dang, they just piled so deep that they got suffocated. I guess they're just competing mouths to feed.
That was very disturbing, but yeah. I was laughing earlier because I had a flashback to a previous episode when you'd mentioned the fact that you caught your kids listening to our show one time and they came to the warning about if you're young, don't listen to it, and they turned it off. They dutifully obeyed.
That's pretty funny.
It is funny. I don't know why that was just popped up during this when I was just thinking about this. That's a good reason to not listen to us at that age.
Yeah, especially some of the stuff that's going on in this book.
Oh, my word, dude. This is pretty gnarly.
Yeah. Itkovian paused at the top of the steps. The sounds of fighting persisted from the direction of Jelarkan's concourse, but that was all he heard. Silence shrouded the scene before him, a silence so discordant in what had been a lively palace forecourt, in what had been a thriving city, that Itkovian was deeply shaken for the first time since the siege began. He thought, "Dear Feiner, find for me the victory in this." Itkovian descended the steps. His company followed, not a word spoken. They strode through the shattered gate, began picking their way through the corpses on the ramp, then in the street beyond. Uncontested by the living, this would nevertheless prove a long journey, nor would it be a journey without battle. Assailing them now were what their eyes saw, what their noses smelled, and what they could feel underfoot. A battle that made shields and armor useless, that made flailing swords futile. A soul hardened beyond humanity was the only defense, and for Itkovian that price was too high. He thought, "I am the shield anvil. I surrender to what lies before me. Thicker than smoke, the grief unleashed and now lost. Churning this lifeless air, a city has been killed. Even the survivors huddling in the tunnels below. Feiner take me. Better they never emerge to see this." How a soldier that has seen this could go back to a normal life would be very difficult. And for those in the tunnels below, a shock beyond imagination. The Grey Swords were there to see how the city turned into what it is now. The civilians have none of that experience to go off of.
This kind of reminds me of a conversation I had with my father about returning veterans from wars and how certain things, something like this, how did people like this go back to a normal, like you were talking about, how you go back to doing this, at least in situations like in our World War II, those fellows were together for long periods of time on like a boat coming back home. And so they had chances to kind of be around fellows who had been around the same thing and have a chance to decompress. But could you imagine these guys who just go from 1 second fighting to all of a sudden you're just kind of standing around with your thumbs kind of, where going, well, what do we do now? And apparently that's what happened in the Vietnam era where these people would come home. They'd be fighting for their lives a week prior. And the next week, they're watching they're at a football game with you. Or they're sitting there, at the house, at the barbecue, and this is very. So I can't imagine how people live with that kind of stuff. How do it creates a lot of issues? I'm assuming.
Yeah, those scars are deep. I don't know if a boat ride home, even if it's a month, is long enough.
No.
There's a couple of things that come to mind. Recently, I was listening to a podcast. I might have talked about this before. It was one of the Delta Force guys that was in Mogadishu. That was the Black Hawk Down incident. When the bodies were returned to the base by the locals, after all of the stuff kind of calmed down a little bit, the bodies were returned in trash bags. He was talking to one of the widows it was years later. She mentioned that she can't use trash bags because her husband was returned to the base in a trash bag. And so not only did it scar him, the trash bag incident, but also the family member of the person that was left behind.
Golly.
I was looking at the comments in the video. A lot of vets were in there, and they specifically talked about bleach, the smell of bleach. All the vehicles, they were using bleach to clean the blood out of them. And so that imprinted. And, smell has such a strong link to memory. Oh, yeah. So every time they smell bleach now, they're taken back to that.
Dude, that's terrible.
Some stuff you never get over.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't have to ever see that and see it for real. So I don't even want to.
Most people don't even know about this stuff to think about it unless they know somebody personally impacted by it. And a lot of times those people don't even know how to communicate the problem. Some trigger point and they freak out or shut down. Sometimes they don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
Now, my point with the civilians down below, the soldiers that were in this battle in Kapustan, they watched everything happen. So they're like a frog that was in water and it just boiled slowly.
Right.
It kind of overtook them.
Yeah.
If you went below before this happened and you come out and see that meat jello cube that Gruntle has created with a ramp of rotting bodies, come on now.
Yeah, dude.
You wouldn't even know how to process what you're seeing.
No, dude. No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't even want to live there anymore.
No, absolutely not. I don't think anyone's going to be able to live here. I think this is one thing I forget about this. I don't think anyone does. I think Kapustan is lost, isn't it?
I honestly don't remember if anybody sticks around. There's a lot of history here.
There is a lot
These people
of history
are generational here. So maybe they do stay. Maybe it's a different world. Maybe they clean up the city and stay. Pale had all those barrows outside the city.
That's true.
Pre-existing ones.
Yeah.
Different world.
Different world.
Their route took them between the cemeteries. Itkovian studied the place where he and his soldiers had made a stand. It looked no different from anywhere else his eyes scanned. The dead lay in heaps. As Brukelian had promised, not one pavestone had gone uncontested. This small city had done all it could. Panyan victory might well have been inevitable, but thresholds nevertheless existed, transforming inexorable momentum into a curse. And now the white-faced clans of the Bargas had announced their own inevitability. What the Panyans had delivered had been in turn delivered upon them. Itkovian thought, we are all pushed into a world of madness, yet it must now fall to each of us to pull back from the abyss, to drag ourselves free of the descending spiral. From horror, grief must be fashioned, and from grief, compassion. As the company entered a choked avenue at the edge of the Daru district, a score of Barghast emerged from an alley mouth directly ahead. Bloodied hook swords in hands, white-painted faces spattered red. The foremost among them grinned at Itkovian. In harshly accented Kappan, he barked, "Defenders, how sits this gift of liberation?" Itkovian ignored the question and said, "You have kindled the thrall, sir. Even now I see the protective glow fading." The Barghast nodded and said, "We shall see the bones of our gods, aye." His small, dark eyes scanned the gray swords, then he said, "You lead a tribe of women." Itkovian said, "Kappan women, this city's most resilient resource, though it fell to us to discover that. They are gray swords now, sir, and for that we are strengthened." The Barghast growled, "We've seen your brothers and sisters everywhere. Had they been our enemies, we would be glad they are dead." Itkovian said, "And as allies?" The The Barghast fighters one and all made a gesture, back of sword hand to brow, the briefest brush of leather to skin. Then the spokesman said, "The loss fills the shadows we cast. Know this, soldier, the enemy you left to us was brittle." That salute, that's what the Atreides were doing in the Dune movies.
Yeah.
The knife hand to the forehead.
Yeah, that's a very touching. I meant to say, I wanted to get down to where we're going to make a break and say something, but that comment there, it's funny, but it's also very touching, that comment. Had they been our enemies, we'd be glad they're dead. It makes me laugh, but uncomfortable, like why the Barghast, they're not wrong. And I love that respect they give right there.
Yeah, for a warrior culture, that's a compliment.
It's a big compliment, dude. Then this impromptu salute, dude, that breaks you down, doesn't it? It's great, man.
It was really touching.
Very touching.
Ikovian shrugged and said, "The Panion's faith knows not worship, only necessity. Their strength is a shallow thing, sir. Will you accompany us to the thrall?" The Barghast said, "At your side, soldiers. In your shadow lies honor." That's a good line right there.
Yeah, really cool. And I agree.
Yeah, I don't think they give that type of respect lightly.
They do not. I don't recall these fellas giving a lot of respect to anybody.
Yeah.
They don't even get to their own friends, let alone, strange warrior cultures they know nothing about.
Most of the structures in the Daru district had burned, collapsing in places to fill the streets with blackened rubble. As the Grey Swords and Barghast wound their way through the least cluttered paths, Ikovian's eyes were drawn to one building still standing, off to their right. A tenement, its walls were strangely bowed. Banked fires had been built against the side facing him, scorching the stones, but the assault of flame had failed for some reason. Every arched window Ikovian could see looked to have been barricaded.
For some reason, it's very interesting that in this book we bring up not just the Barghast who we've been talking about forever, but we bring out the Segula and the Grey Swords. So we have these two different warrior cultures. They're both very honor-based, but the Grey Swords are, they're mercenaries, but they're different. And I'm just curious what their history is and their length of, how long have they been doing this as a group? Has it been recent? It's been 20, 30 years. Has it been 100 plus years? What kind of culture are we talking about? I don't know why I never really thought about it before, but I'm just kind of fascinated with these different, talk about a different type of warrior cultures, all here, Barghast, Grey Swords, and the Segula. Dude, that's kind of a wild bunch of groups. They're all disparate types, highly regimented, very regimented as a solo fighter of the Segula, and then you have just every man for themselves, the Barghast. But
unless you're a Ninja Turtle.
Unless you're a Ninja Turtle, I guess. Ninja Turtle Barghasts. But just, I don't know why I never thought about that before. It's just very intriguing, all these different cultures of types that have come here for this war to stop these Panions.
Yeah, that's a good question. How long have the Grey Swords existed as an organization?
Yeah, curious.
I don't think we ever learned that.
I know, and I think this is one of these enigmas. It's kind of like the Corball and Broach group. We see Grey Swords more, but I don't recall much. I remember some things, but not much.
Mm-hmm. At his side, the Barghast spokesman growled, "Your kind crowd your barrows." Ikovian glanced at the man and said, "Sir?" The warrior nodded towards the smoked haze tenement and went on with his commentary. "Easier, aye, than digging and lining a pit outside the city, than the lines passing buckets of earth. You like a clear view from the walls, it seems. But we do not live among our dead in the manner of your people." Ikovian turned back to study the tenement, now slightly to the rear on the right. His eyes narrowed. He thought, the barricades blocking the windows. Once more, flesh and bone. Twin tusks. Who would build such a necropolis? Surely it cannot be the consequence of defense. The Barghast said, "We wandered close. The walls give off their own heat. Jellied liquid bleeds between the cracks."
Ugh.
Jello mold indeed, sir.
I hope it doesn't get struck by lightning. We might have a Frankenstein issue here, but on a whole different level.
Pray that Corball Broach doesn't get anywhere near this building.
Oh, my word. Oh, that's a disgusting thought, sir. Okay.
It is. He has a lot of material to work with.
Oh, my word. That's a lot of material to work with there, sir.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is going to be a kind of a it's not meant to be gnarly, but to work with such material, do you have to separate it first, or can you just kind of cast a spell and just do something with it? Does he have to kind of go in there and go, crap, I go digging through it like this? I didn't know it was sold like this. It's like a bad...
I thought he had to actually extract the organs from them.
Okay.
Because the bodies that he was leaving behind were missing their organs.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Now I'm even having a worse vision. It's not a Jello mold, dude. It's the Spam mold with all the bones left in, dude.
It's like a head cheese. It's got...
Yes. Yes. Yes, sir.
All right, we need to stop.
Move along, please. Move along,
Disturbing
sir.
themes indeed, sir.
Indeed.
We moved up a couple ranks.
Indeed.
The Barghast made another gesture, this one shuddering, hilt of his hooked sword clattering against the coin-wrought armor covering his torso. He said, "By the bones, soldier, we fled." Ikovian asked, "Is that tenement the only one so filled?" The Barghast said, "We've seen no other, though we did pass one estate that still held. Enlivened corpses stood guard at the gate and on the walls. The air stank of sorcery, an emanation foul with necromancy. I tell you this, soldier, we shall be glad to quit this city." I think it says a lot about the horror that has taken place in this city when the Barghasts are shuddering at the thought of it. These dudes are killing each other in duels multiple times a day, and this is bothering them?
I'm sorry, it's that those duels are so casual, dude. It's like the culture is just so inured to that stuff. But I'm guessing that the bonus of the dueling is in that situation, that is, if you come to a war situation, you would be hardened and not so... You've dealt with, you wouldn't be so haunted by some of this stuff. But this situation with this Jello mold of doom is something else entirely new. This is a new thing even for Mr. Erikson, I think.
Yeah, that's true. It's truly out there.
Yes, it is. I've got some Moorcock vibes going on, but for all different reasons, though.
Ikovian was silent. He felt rent inside. The Riva Feiner voiced the truth of war. It spoke true of the cruelty that humanity was capable of unleashing upon its own kind. War was played like a game by those who led others, played in an illusory arena of calm reason, but such lies could not survive reality, and reality seemed to have no limits. The Reeve held a plea for restraint, and insisted the glory to be found was not to be a blind one, rather a glory born of solemn, clear-eyed regard. Within limitless reality resided the promise of redemption. And it's good to hear that the Reeve has a plea for restraint and doesn't glorify violence and battle just for the sake of it.
Yeah, these guys are obviously not into Grand Theft Auto. Do you think that the Gray Swords, maybe, I just now thought about this as we're getting here, are some kind of shout out to Black Company, Mr. Glenn Cook, because I know he's influenced by those books to some extent, but not that they're dishonorable or something like that. I don't know. They're not dishonorable, but I know they're kind of rascally.
Oh, that's a good point, because the Black Company, they're mercenaries.
Yeah.
Interesting. I never thought about that before. Maybe he was influenced by those books.
Yeah, I know he was. So I'm just kind of curious because you told me about that. I love those books. Those are great.
Oh, yeah.
Those are fantastic reads, too.
There's some really good stuff in those.
Yeah. Yes, there is.
That's a dark world.
That is a very dark world, man.
There's not a lot of humor in those books, like with the bridge burners and the shenanigans they get up to in these.
No, there's a lot of shenanigans, but it's pretty humorless, yeah. This isn't by necessity, yeah.
It was good, though. I enjoyed it.
Oh, fantastic.
Your mention of Grand Theft Auto reminded me of a story that I read online. This guy, pretty religious family, him and his brother were playing Grand Theft Auto. I guess the PlayStation was in the basement. I'm trying to remember. They had some mechanism of duping money at the strip club or something.
Okay.
They were somewhere and they came home and their parents called them downstairs. And apparently it involved them leaving the game running. The dad had found out about it. He's confronting them about them playing this game, which is obviously not, according to the parents' beliefs, acceptable.
Right. Not by anybody's standard of imagination acceptable.
And while he's getting on to the kids about this, he accidentally hits the controller and pays the stripper money and she starts dancing. And the boys were trying not to laugh.
Oh, my word, dude.
While they're getting in trouble.
My late wife liked GTA 3, and she discovered ways to get refunded, shall we say, from transactions with ladies of the night.
Yeah.
And I can remember hearing her laughing about that. It made me laugh. I shouldn't be laughing because it's so dark, but my word.
That clear-eyed regard was failing at Kovian now. He was recoiling like a caged animal cruelly prodded on all sides. Escape was denied to him, yet that denial was self-imposed, a thing born of his conscious will, given shape by the words of his vow. He must assume this burden, no matter the cost. The fires of vengeance had undergone a transformation within him. He would be, at the last, the redemption for the souls of the fallen in this city. He thought redemption for everyone else, but not for himself. For that he could only look to his God. But, dear Feiner, what has happened? Where are you? I kneel in place, awaiting your touch. Yet you are nowhere to be found. Your realm, it feels empty. Where, now, can I go? I am not yet done. I accept this. And when I am, who awaits me? Who shall embrace me? A shiver ran through him. Again he thought, Who shall embrace me? Ikovian pushed the question away, struggled to renew his resolve. He had, after all, no choice. He would be Fëanor's grief and his lord's hand of justice, not welcome responsibilities, and he sensed the toll they were about to exact. I really feel for him here. It's a tough position to be in. This is a huge burden he's taking on, and he has nothing backing him. And it makes me wonder, how much can one soul withstand?
Yeah, this has always intrigued me, and it also saddens me. Part of that is just because I don't know why. I think sometimes I'm kind of sad because I can't understand what's going to happen, I can't understand what's going to happen to that fellow.
They neared the plaza before the thrall. Other Barghast were visible, joining in the convergence. The distant sounds of battle in Jelarcan concourse, which had accompanied them through most of the afternoon, now fell silent. The enemy had been driven from the city. Ikovian did not think the Barghast would pursue. They had achieved what they had come here to do. The Panion threat to the bones of their gods had been removed. Probably, if Septarch Kolpath still lived, he would reform his tattered forces, reassert discipline, and prepare for his next move, either a counterattack or a westward withdrawal. There were risks to both. He might have insufficient force to retake the city, and his army, having lost possession of their camps and supply routes, would soon suffer from lack of supplies. It was not an enviable position. Kapustan, a small, inconsequential city on the east coast of central Genebakis, had become a many-sided curse, and the lives lost here signified but the beginning of the war to come. On the point of the Panion military food source, what other supplies do they need aside from food and arrows, etc.?
I can't even begin to imagine, because I know it takes a lot of resources to carry on a campaign. I mean, look at what it costs. I don't know what the dollar amount our soldiers are equipped with enough gear. None of that costs a lot of stuff. But this is with people that have backing. All I can do is I got no idea what else is needed. I just can only imagine what you get in the military that gives you nothing. This closest thing this comes to is, to me, is I'm always reminded of Enemy at the Gates. I think we've talked about this, where, at the Battle of Stalingrad, one gets the bullets, one gets the rifle. And that's about the only way that I can see these people working. You only get the chance to a weapon if somebody has a weapon and falls before you, and then you got to pick up their weapon and use it. I don't even know how this would even function, but I think this is one of his nastiest creations, though. Mr. Erikson, that is. The cannibal mob army.
I think the army was actually fairly well supplied, and I think what they lost was their food, basically, and water.
Oh, okay. Because you can live without food. Now, it's not easy, nor is it comfortable, but you can live without food for days longer. With water, you only got like 3 or 4 days, maybe.
They're by that river, though.
So water's at least taken care of?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I got no idea, dude.
Yeah, it's just, I didn't think they were eating people.
I don't think this military is. I'm assuming they had cattle with them of some sort. This is what seems to happen in this kind of old school. I know our group's traveling with the veteran herd.
That's right.
I'm assuming that other militaries, you have to have people that know how to keep a herd together and to keep them birthing and moving at the same time and growing at the same time. So I'm guessing farmers of types are also necessary for your campaign. On the road farmers, especially for the meat side of things. Even if you've got a very lush land, like let's say we're hunting like let's say it's Vietnam, but less jungly so you can get around. But that's to hunt an area to feed an army. You ain't got enough people to hunt to feed an army.
No.
On the go. You add to what you eat that you already have by hunting. But, if you kind of fill things out, but you can't subsist on the road with that many people and hunt. You'd have to spread out everywhere to even get things and eat. I've assumed about all theirs, it's always been sorcerously supplied by the seer.
Huh. Okay.
Now, I'm not saying the herds could have been sorcerously moved, not created, but maybe moved from some place to another place, waiting them when they arrive or something. I don't know.
Okay. They emerged onto the plaza. The place where Bruchalion had fallen lay directly ahead, but all the bodies had been removed, taken, no doubt, by the retreating Panions. Flesh for yet another royal feast. Ikovian thought, it doesn't matter. Hood came for him, in person. Was that a sign of honor, or petty gloating on the god's part? Ikovian's gaze held on that stained stretch of flagstones for a moment longer, then swung to the thrall's main gate. The glow was gone. In the shadows beneath the gate's arch, figures had appeared. Every approach to the plaza had filled with Barghast, but they ventured no further. Ikovian turned his back to his company. His eyes found his captain, who had been the master sergeant in charge of training the recruits, then Velbara. He studied their tattered, stained armor, their lined, drawn faces, then said, "The 3 of us, sirs," to the center of the plaza. The 2 women nodded. The three strode onto the concourse, thousands of eyes fixed on them, followed by a rumbling murmur, then a rhythmic, muted clashing of blade on blade. Another party emerged from the right, soldiers wearing uniforms Ikovian did not recognize, and, in their company, figures displaying barbed, feline tattooing. Leading the latter group, a man Ikovian had seen before. Ikovian's steps slowed. He thought, Gruntle. The name was a hammer blow to his chest. Brutal certainty forced his next thoughts. The mortal sword of Trake, Tiger of Summer. The first hero is ascended. We are replaced.
This reminds me of remember at the end of Kelly's Heroes, when the three guys stand up, you got Donald Sutherland, Clint Eastwood, and Telly Savalas kind of marching down the street, approaching that bank.
Yep.
It's bigger groups, mind you, but I kind of got that vibe with all these, like the main number guys, the number one fellas here. I kind of got that. All you need is the sound of spurs inserted into here to kind of give it that Kelly's Heroes vibe for sure as they're walking down the street there.
There's probably a couple other movies where a couple people are walking down the street together, people eyeballing them.
Yeah. Wild Bunch. Wild Bunch is one of my
Tombstone.
Tombstone. Tombstone, fantastic. Yeah.
Steeling himself, Ikovian resumed his pace, then halted in the center of the expanse. A single soldier in the foreign uniform had moved up alongside Gruntle. He closed a hand around the big Daru's striped arm and barked something back to the others, who all stopped, while the man and Gruntle continued on, directly towards Ikovian. A commotion from the thrall's gate caught their attention. Priests and priestesses of the mass council were emerging, holding a struggling comrade among them as they hastened forward. In the lead, Rath Trake. A step behind, the Daru merchant Keruli. The soldier and Gruntle reached Ikovian first. Beneath the Daru's helm, Gruntle's tiger eyes studied Ikovian. He rumbled, Ikovian of the Grey Swords, it is done. Ikovian had no need to ask for elaboration. The truth was a knife in his heart. The foreign soldier snapped, No, it isn't. I greet you, Shield Anvil. I am Captain Perrin of the Bridgeburners, One Arm's host. Gruntle muttered, He is more than that. What he claims now, Perrin cut in, is nothing I do willingly. Shield Anvil, Fainor has been torn from his realm. He strides a distant land. You, your company, you have lost your god. Ikovian thought, and so it is known to all. He said, We are aware of this, sir. Perrin said, Gruntle says that your role is done. The Grey Swords must step aside, for a new god of war has gained preeminence. But that doesn't have to be. A path for you has been prepared. Perrin's gaze went past Ikovian. He raised his voice and said, Welcome, Humbrol Tar. Your children no doubt await within the thrall. Ikovian glanced back over his shoulder to see, standing 10 paces behind him, a huge Barghast warchief in coin-threaded armor. Humbrol Tar growled, They can wait a while longer. I would witness this. Perrin grimaced and said, Nosy bastard. Humbrol Tar said, Aye. Perrin returned his attention to Ikovian and made to speak, but Ikovian interrupted him. A moment, sir. He stepped past the two men. Rathfainor jerked and twisted in the grip of his fellow priests. His mask was awry. Wisps of gray hair pulled free of the leather strapping. Upon seeing Ikovian, he cried, Shield Anvil! In the name of Fainor! Ikovian cut in. In his name, I, sir. To my side, Captain Norul. The Reeve's law is invoked. The grizzled woman said, Sir, stepping forward. Rathfainor screamed, You can't! For this, only the mortal sword can invoke the Reeve. Ikovian stood motionless. The priest managed to pull one arm forward to jab a finger at Ikovian. He said, My rank is as Destriant. Unless you've won to make claim to that title, Ikovian said, Destriant Carnidus is dead. Rathfainor said, That man was no Destriant, Shield Anvil. An aspirant, perhaps. But my rank was and remains preeminent. Thus, only a mortal sword can invoke the Reeve against me, and this you know. Gruntle snorted. He said, Ikovian, Perrin here told me there was a betrayal. Your priest sold Brucalian's life to the Panions. Not only disgusting, but ill-advised. So, he paused then asked, Will any mortal sword do? If so, I invoke the Reeve. He bared his teeth at Rathfainor and said, Punish the bastard. Ikovian thought, We are replaced. The Lord of Battle is transformed indeed. Rathfainor shrieked, He cannot! Ikovian said, A bold claim. In order to deny this man's right to the title, sir, you must call upon our God, in your defense. Do so, sir, and you shall walk from here a free man. The eyes within the mask went wide. He shouted, You know that's impossible, Ikovian! Ikovian said, Then your defense is over, sir. The Reeve is invoked. I am become Fainor's hand of justice. Rathtrake, who had been standing nearby in watchful silence, now spoke. There is no need for any of this, Shield Anvil. Your god's absence changes everything. Surely you understand the implications of the traditional form of punishment. A simple execution, not the Reeves law. A Kovian cut him off. Is denied this man. Captain Norul. She strode to Rathfainer, reached out and plucked him from the hold of the priests and priestesses. He seemed like a rag doll in her large, scarred hands as she swung him round and threw him belly down on the flagstones. She then straddled him, stretching his arms out forward yet side by side. The man shrieked with sudden comprehension. A Kovian drew his sword. Smoke drifted from the blade. That's almost as cool as the black flames that Bruchalion had on his sword.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm really curious where this power is coming from if Fainor is no longer in his warren. Does Kovian have some powers that he's retained, or is he becoming something more without the need of Fainor?
That's a really good question. Part of that could be, do you think his sword might be invested?
Possibly.
So it might function separately. So, I mean, to me, investment might bypass the need for an actual deity to be present because it's already been pre-invested, so it's there. But maybe there's some residual power left in this warren, kind of like it's just waiting for the next occupant to show up, and it's like, kind of like we have with Shadowthrone in that bunch, you know. Just because there's no one in there, does it mean that you don't have access to it?
We can come back to this after what happens because I don't think it's just Sorceress investment of the weapon. I do think that there's still some connection to whatever warren they were using, given what happens.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Standing over Rathfainor's outstretched arms, a Kovian said, "The Reeve, betrayal to trade Bruchalion's life for your own. Betrayal, the foulest crime to the Reeve's law, to Fainor himself. Punishment is invoked, in accordance with the Boar of Summer's judgment." He was silent for a moment, then he said, "Pray, sir, that Fainor finds what we send him." Rathtrake cried, "But he won't! Don't you understand? His realm, your god, no longer waits within it." Perrin said, "He knows. This is what happens when it gets personal, and believe me, I'd rather have had no part in this." Rathtrake swung to Perrin and asked, "And who are you, soldier?" Perrin said, "Today, right now, I am the master of the deck, priest, and it seems I am here to negotiate, on you and your god's behalf. Alas," he added wryly, "the shield anvil is proving admirably recalcitrant." Ikovian barely heard the exchange. Eyes holding on Rathfainor pinned to the ground before him, he said, "Our lord is gone. Indeed, so. Best pray, Rathfainor, that a creature of mercy now looks kindly upon you." Rathtrake whirled back to Ikovian at those words, and said, "By the abyss, Ikovian, there's no crime so foul to match what you are about to do. His soul will be torn apart. Where they will go, there are no creatures of mercy. Ikovian cut in, "Silence, sir. This judgment is mine, and the Reeves." Rathfainor shrieked, and Ikovian swung down the sword. Blade's edge cracked on the flagstones. Twin gouts of blood shot out from the stumps of Rathfainor's wrists. The hands were nowhere to be seen. Ikovian jammed the flat of his blade against the stumps. Flesh sizzled. Rathfainor's screams ceased abruptly as unconsciousness took him. Captain Norul moved away from the man, left him lying on the flagstones. How do you feel about this situation?
I'm kind of disturbed by the situation. I'm kind of confused. This is a very core memory, and still equally confused how to feel, because the guy betrayed him, sure. But even Rathtrake is, who is, I'm assuming, representing the new bunch, especially with Gruntle stepping in and saying something to invoke this Reeve as a mortal sword of Trake, I'm assuming, is asking him not to do it. He's telling him it's an abomination almost to do this to a man like that, do this to somebody. I know he's betrayed you, but, kill him, sure. But don't do this to him. I'm not sure how to feel. It's actually kind of disturbing compared to how everything else is going with the Kovian.
I struggle with this one. Because if it was one of my friends that I was close to that got betrayed, I don't think I'd be merciful.
I agree.
I don't know if that's the right thing to do. Really struggle with this one.
Well, I do too. It's just, the man needs to be punished, yes. And I think he needs to pay with his life, not with just his hands. But there is something going on with the hand scene that we're missing, because all we have to go on is, you're going to say something here about this next thing, the punishment for somebody else.
Yeah, so this is what happened to Hebrick. This is exactly what happened to Hebrick. But Fainor was there to receive his hands.
Fainor was there to receive the hands. But this now brings up another question. Are these the hands that pulled him, Fainor, literally pulled him into this realm?
I think so.
That's what I'm thinking too. I never thought about that till before, but...
Not these hands. It was Hebrick's hands.
No, that's what I mean. Hebrick's hands. Hebrick's hands were used to pull Fainor into this realm.
Yeah, he had the stump.
Yeah.
The stump that touched the jade hands got corrupted, and then she pushed that stump into the sigil, the tattoo on Hebrick's chest, I think it was, and then that's what caused Feanor to get ripped into the mortal realm.
That's what caused this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of like you. So I'm thinking it's Hebrick's hands that yanked him into our world. But the thing that I don't get it. It's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if some of this stuff when we're trying to understand things, I forget that we're probably trying to assign meaning that may not even be there. But like you're right, with Hebrick, at least there was something there to receive the hands. With nothing there to receive the hands, what's the significance of this? Is there any significance?
Well, the significance is presumably there was a relationship between Feanor and Wrath Feanor. And whatever is getting the hands now, there are things that lurk about, and they are not good. And that's what's getting them now.
Yeah, I get that.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Those things, those entities, whatever they are, being evil, or we don't really know if they're aspected or anything or much about them short of what we see happens to Wrath Feanor here after a couple more sentences. We just assume that they delight in people suffering, almost seems like.
Yeah, that would be my assumption.
Yeah. So that's ultimately the question is, like, how do you feel about the way this was handled? I mean, I think in the end, Akovian had a plan here that nobody else was aware of.
Yes.
We can come back to this, I guess, after that.
Yeah, I guess come back to it. Okay.
Perrin said, "Shield Anvil, hear me, please. Feanor is gone. He strides the mortal realm. Thus he cannot bless you. With what you take upon yourself, there is nowhere for it to go, no way to ease the burden." Akovian said, "I am equally aware of what you say, sir." Akovian still stared down at Wrath Feanor, who was stirring to unconsciousness once more. He went on, "Such knowledge is worthless." Perrin said, "There's another way, Shield Anvil." Akovian turned at that, eyes narrowing. Perrin went on, "A choice has been fashioned. In this I am but a messenger." Rathtrake stepped up to Akovian and said, "We shall welcome you, sir, you and your followers. The Tiger of Summer has need for you, a shield anvil, and so offers his embrace." Akovian interrupted, "No." The eyes within the mask narrowed. Perrin said, "Akovian, this was foreseen, the path prepared for, by elder powers, once more awake and active in this world. I'm here to tell you what they would have you do." Akovian said, "No, I am sworn to Feanor. If need be, I shall share his fate." And I see why Akovian wouldn't take this deal. He took a vow of celibacy to be closer to Feanor, and he wouldn't simply step over the line to join Trake's team just because.
I get it, but what do you do as the current leader of a warrior cult? Sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but you worship an entity as this group, and the source of your worship it has been verified to in fact not be present. Like, we know for a fact there wasn't a source, there was something there to worship. Now he's gone. Now, what do you do? I mean, I don't even know how to understand what's going on with this guy and how he's able to even do this without a source of power.
No, what we're talking about here is different than what he's capable of doing without a source of power. It's more specifically, would people that are this devoted to something just flip because it's expedient?
Right. I can understand why there'd be no flipping, but I guess what I'm getting at is in a world where you are aware of a deity and where you draw some source of comfort and power from, what happens when that deity's gone? I mean, it's like, are you left with, like, okay, well, your loyalty, you would have a loyalty to something that isn't there. So you wouldn't immediately switch, but at some point you might have to have a need to. I don't know. Especially if you're a mortal sword. I got no idea. Are you once a mortal sword, always a mortal sword? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or destriant, or whatever these things are.
Yeah, I guess you, like a lot of elder gods that fall out of memory, you just kind of fade out, I would think. You don't have any power anymore.
Yeah.
You just live your life with a hole in it.
Yeah, that would be what I would think. It's weird, man.
Yeah.
Their universe is very strange in that fact that you actually have physical deities that you can, in fact, worship.
Mm-hmm.
But they also can be removed from the playing field.
Yeah. Rathtrake cried, "This is an offer of salvation, not a betrayal." Akovian said, "Isn't it? No more words, sirs." On the ground below, Wrath Feanor had regained awareness. Akovian studied the man and whispered, "I am not yet done." Wrath Feanor's body jerked, a throat-tearing scream erupting from him, his arms snapping as if yanked by invisible, unhuman hands. Dark tattoos appeared on the man's skin, but not those belonging to Feanor, for the god had not been the one to claim Wrath Feanor's severed hands. Writhing, alien script swarmed his flesh as the unknown claimant made its mark, claimed possession of the man's mortal soul, words that darkened like burns. Blisters rose, then broke, spurting thick yellow liquid. Screams of unbearable, unimaginable pain filled the plaza, the body on the flagstone spasming as muscle and fat dissolved beneath the skin, then boiled, breaking through. Yet the man did not die. I want to know who or what has taken those hands. This is some eldritch stuff here, and it's truly horrific. How are we feeling about the punishment now, given what we're seeing?
I feel this is a bit overblown here. It's pretty rough, man.
Mm-hmm. Ikovian sheathed his sword. Perrin was the first to comprehend. His hand snapped forward, closed on Ikovian's arms, and said, "By the abyss, do not." Ikovian said, "Captain Norul." Face white beneath the rim of her helm, the woman settled a hand on the grip of her sword. In a taut, brittle voice, she said, "Captain Perrin, withdraw your touch." He swung on her and said, "Aye, even you recoil at what he plans." Norul said, "Nevertheless, sir, release him, or I will kill you." Perrin's eyes glittered strangely at that threat, but Ikovian could spare no thought for the young captain. He had a responsibility. Rathvaner had been punished enough. His pain must end. He thought, "And who shall save me?"
That is a core quote, and I always feel a physical blow from that one.
Yeah, he's getting real serious. It's bad enough already, the punishment this guy's going through, but what's about to happen? It's changing things. Seriously.
Yes, it is.
Perrin relinquished his grip. Ikovian bent down to the writhing, barely recognizable shape on the flagstones. He said, "Rathvaner, hear me. Yes, I come. Will you accept my embrace? For all the envy and malice within the tortured priest, all that led to the betrayal, not just of Bruchalion, the mortal sword, but of Faner himself, some small measure of mercy remained in the man's soul. Mercy and comprehension." His body jerked away, limbs skidding as he sought to crawl from Ikovian's shadow. Ikovian nodded, then gathered the suppurating figure into his arms and rose. He thought, "I see you recoil, and know it for your final gesture, one that is atonement. To this I cannot but answer in kind, Rathvaner. Thus, I assume your pain, sir. No, do not fight this gift. I free your soul to Hood, to death's solace." Perrin and the others saw naught but Ikovian standing motionless, Rathvaner in his arms. The rendered, blood-streaked priest continued to struggle for a moment longer, then he seemed to collapse inward, his screams falling into silence.
I've never heard the term rendered used on a human being before. That's pretty rough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, short of maybe what happened in Jelarken's throne room.
Right?
Terrible.
Right. It's absolutely rough, dude. I'm not laughing. I'm laughing at what you said about Jelarken.
It's a disturbing theme. What can I say?
Yes, it's very disturbing, dude.
The man's life unfolded in Ikovian's mind. Before him, the priest's path to betrayal. He saw a young acolyte, pure of heart, cruelly schooled, not in piety and faith, but in the cynical lessons of secular power struggles. Rule and administration was a viper's nest, a ceaseless contest among small and petty minds with illusory rewards. A life within the cold halls of the thrall that had hollowed out the priest's soul. The self filled the new cavern of lost faith, beset by fears and jealousies, to which malevolent acts were the only answer. The need for preservation made every virtue a commodity, to be traded away. Ikovian understood him, could see each step taken that led inevitably to the betrayal, the trading of lives as agreed between the priest and the agents in the Panyan Daman. And within that, Rathvaner's knowledge that he had, in so doing, wrapped a viper about himself whose kiss was deadly. He was dead either way, but he had gone too far from his faith, too far to ever imagine he might one day return to it. Ikovian thought, "I comprehend you now, Rathvaner, but comprehension is not synonymous with absolution. The justice that is your punishment does not waver. Thus you were made to know pain. Aye, Faner should have been awaiting you. Your God should have accepted your severed hands, so that he might look upon you following your death, that he might voice the words prepared for you and you alone, the words on your skin, the final atonement to your crimes. This is as it should have been, sir. But Faner is gone, and what holds you now has other desires. I now deny it the possession of you." Real quick, that thing in here where they say the words would appear on your skin, that's the tattoos that Heberick had on his body.
Yes.
Presumably, the same thing would have happened to Rathvaner here, but given something else got it, the tattoos were from whatever this thing was.
Yeah, who is it?
Some demon or something, man. It's gotta be.
Do you think it's that? Do you think it's the crippled god?
I don't know.
Okay.
Hard to say.
It's nasty, though. It's hard to say, but it's nasty.
I feel like if it was the crippled god, we probably would have heard about it, found out about it somehow.
Okay. I agree. You're right.
I think this is one of those things where less information's better because it just opens your mind to the possibility of it's a dangerous place to be in.
Yes. It's a very dangerous world here.
Rathvaner's soul shrieked, seeking to pull away once more, carving words through the tumult. "Ikovian, you must not. Leave me with this. I beg you. Not for your soul. I never meant. Please, Ikovian." Ikovian tightened his spiritual embrace, breaking the last barriers. He thought, No one is to be denied their grief, sir, not even you. But barriers once lowered could not choose what would pass through. The storm that hit Ikovian overwhelmed him. Pain so intense as to become an abstract force, a living entity that was itself a thing filled with panic and terror. He opened himself to it, let its screams fill him. On a field of battle, after the last heart had stilled, pain remains, locked in soil, in stone, bridging the air from each place to every other, a web of memory, trembling to a silent song. But for Ikovian, his vow denied him the gift of silence. He could hear that song. It filled him entire, and he was its counterpoint, its answer. He thought, I have you now, Wrathfainer. You are found, and so I answer. Suddenly beyond the pain, a mutual awareness, an alien presence, immense power, not malign, yet profoundly different. From that presence, storm-tossed confusion, anguish, seeking to make of the unexpected gift of immortal's two hands something of beauty. Yet that man's flesh could not contain that gift. Horror within the storm, horror and grief. Ikovian thought, ah, even gods weep. Commend yourself, then, to my spirit. I will have your pain as well, sir. Now, real quick, I guess I didn't pick up on that the first time. I thought this was some type of malevolent god, but this makes it sound like it was just so different from this realm that it was trying to make a gift, and it ended up corrupting him and melting him because it wasn't really compatible with what it was trying to do.
It's like DC, not direct current to AC over here in our country.
Maybe. Or maybe what was beautiful to it, maybe melting him was beautiful to it, you know? Maybe it is evil. I don't know.
And again, this question is he doing something, because the god weeps over having hurt this person by trying to make a gift of it, it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
So he's taking the pain of this entity and cleansing it too.
Yeah, that blows my mind. He's gone too far. It's bad enough you don't have a backstop for an entire other person's, all the pain that they ever experienced in their life.
Right.
You're absolving them of that. And then you jump to a god's level. And that's orders of magnitude more, I imagine.
Yeah.
Longer life, dealing with a lot more stuff. Because I think it mentions that they kind of get the pain of their followers too.
Yeah, I guess so. Now I'm questioning though, and is that in fact the crippled god? And is this what kind of makes the beginning of something different for the crippled god?
I don't think so. The crippled god, we haven't seen any indication that he wants to do anything nice right now.
That's true. He seems to be a pretty mean son of a gun.
Yeah.
He seems to be the Loki kind of character, the deal with the devil kind of person. You make a deal with him like the guy, like the old boy that took the torch, you know. He got cured, but he was crippled.
Oh, yeah, that was a terrible bargain.
You know, it's a terrible bargain, dude.
Yeah, it's like, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, and bargain a little bit better. Think a little bit deeper. I guess I don't know.
The alien presence recoiled, but it was too late. Ikovian's embrace offered its immeasurable gift and was engulfed. He felt his soul dissolving, tearing apart. He thought, too vast! There was, beneath the cold faces of gods, warmth. Yet it was sorrow in darkness. For it was not the gods themselves who were unfathomable. It was mortals. As for the gods, they simply paid. That's what I was referring to.
Okay.
He thought, we are the rack upon which they are stretched. Then the sensation was gone, fleeing him as the alien god succeeded in extracting itself, leaving Ikovian with but fading echoes of a distant world's grief. A world with its own atrocities, layer upon layer through a long tortured history, fading, then gone, leaving him with heart-rending knowledge. A small mercy. He was buckling beneath Fëanor's pain and the growing onslaught of Capustan's appalling death as his embrace was forced ever wider. The clamoring souls on all sides. Not one life's history unworthy of notice, of acknowledgement. Not one he would turn away. Souls in the tens of thousands, lifetimes of pain, loss, love, and sorrow. Each leading to each, writing memories of its own agonized death. Memories of piteous, pointless ends to thousands and thousands of lives. Ikovian thought, I must atone, I must give answer to every death, every death. He was lost within the storm, his embrace incapable of closing around the sheer immensity of anguish assailing him. Yet he struggled on. The gift of peace, the stripping away of pain's trauma, to free the souls to find their way, to the feet of countless gods, or Hood's own realm, or indeed to the abyss itself. Necessary journeys to free souls trapped in their own tortured deaths. He thought, I am the shield anvil. This is for me, to hold, Hold on. Reach, gods. Redeem them, sir. It is your task. The heart of your vows. You are the walker among the dead in the field of battle. You are the bringer of peace, the redeemer of the fallen. You are the mender of broken lives. Without you, death is senseless, and the denial of meaning is the world's greatest crime to its own children. Hold, Ikovian, hold fast. But he had no god against which to set his back, no solid, intractable presence awaiting him to answer his own need, and he was but one mortal soul. He thought, yet I must not surrender. Gods, hear me. I may not be yours, but your fallen children, they are mine. Witness, then, what lies behind my cold face. Witness! In the plaza, amidst a dreadful silence, Perrin and the others watched as Ikovian slowly settled to his knees. A rotting, lifeless corpse was slumped in his arms. The lone, kneeling figure seemed to Perrin's eyes to encompass the exhaustion of the world, an image that burned into his mind, and one that he knew would never leave him. Of the struggles, the wars, still being waged within Ikovian, little showed. After a long moment, Ikovian reached up with one hand and unstrapped his helm, lifting it clear to reveal the sweat-stained leather underhelm. The long, dripping hair plastered against his brow and neck shrouded his face as he knelt with head bowed, the corpse in his arms crumbling to pale ash. The shield anvil was motionless. The uneven rise and fall of his frame slowed, stuttered, then ceased. Perrin, his heart hammering loud in his chest, darted close, grasped Ikovian's shoulders, and shook the man. He shouted, "No, damn you! This isn't what I've come here to see! Wake up, you bastard!" Ikovian thought, "Peace. I have you now? My gift. Ah, this burden." His head jerked back, drew a sobbing breath. He thought, settling, such weight. Why? Gods, you all watched. You witnessed with your immortal eyes, yet you did not step forward. You denied my cry for help. Why? That's a good question. I assume it's because they probably have the mentality of, meh, you already did the work, why should I put any energy into it? It's pretty dirty of them.
Yeah, but most of what we've seen from, I'll say this, they are scheming a lot from what we've seen. Even the ones that I seem to like have got some plans within plans within plans. So there's something. They are kind of a dirty bunch in a way.
Yeah, it just seems lazy and not wanting to expose themselves.
Yeah.
They should have done better.
I agree. They could have done better, but unfortunately, gods like this are very much just like they mirror their worshippers. They're just humans or mortal-ish, so they behave like them too.
Crouching, Perrin moved round to face Ikovian. He shouted, "Mallet!" over his shoulder. As Mallet ran forward, Ikovian, his eyes finding Perrin, slowly raised a hand. Swallowing his dismay, he managed to find words. He rasped, "I know not how, but you have returned me." Perrin's grin was forced. He said, "You are the shield anvil." Ikovian whispered, "I." He thought, "And fainer forgive me. What you have done is no mercy." He said, "I am the shield anvil." Eyes searching Ikovian's, Perrin said, "I can feel it in the air. It's been cleansed." Ikovian thought, and I am not yet done. This guy is something else. To live in the service of others with no thought of yourself, especially when dealing with what is going on here, taking on the sorrow of potentially millions of people, is simply beyond comprehension for me. It's such a transformation for him.
It is, and sorry to beat this drum, but not really. But this is very Christ-like. I mean, this is how I view Jesus. That's what he did. He came to die for the sins and sorrows of the world. You know, you just got to put your trust in him. But it's just one of these things that I have no problem with seeing that. It's like I can see someone... you know what I'm saying? We have that as an example, so I like that. It's like I can kind of see this. He's acted as their cleansing agent.
Very few people are capable of that, and it makes me think of how unique Ikovian is.
Yeah, I guess Ikovian, you know what I failed to see the first time, even the second and third time with Ikovian, I don't think this is saying anything spoilery either, is I think we're seeing the first steps on the path to ascendancy. For sure.
Potentially. We'll see what happens.
Potentially. Not sure. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But to be able to do this and cleanse a city like that, not the world, but the city of that amount of deaths, that's pretty powerful to be able to cleanse it somehow, to remove the guilt, pain. I'm not really sure what to let these people, I guess, get to their final destination, though, I think is what's the primary course of what he does, is how I understand that. Is that how you understand that?
It sounded like a lot of souls were in limbo, and Hood hadn't come to collect their souls, whatever mechanism was required for that. I don't know if that's because the Warrens are corrupted by the crippled god or what's going on.
Oh, wow.
In theory, that's what I thought happened. They'd have to go through Hood's gate.
Yeah.
And apparently most of them hadn't.
Yeah, that's wild, dude.
Yeah.
And I guess they have now. So
yeah. Gruntle stood watching as Perrin and Mallet spoke with Akovian. The fog of his thoughts, which had been closed around him for what he now realized was days, had begun to thin. Details now assailed him, and the evidence of the changes within himself left him alarmed. That's interesting to hear, because I had been wondering about this. At least he reverts back to himself after being out of battle and the fog of battle's gone, because I was wondering how much of him remained within there. And apparently he wasn't consciously, it was almost subconsciously operating.
Yeah, it's like he was operating, but just operating at such peak efficiency, he had no time for his humanity. And it's like now that that's kind of gone back to sleep, he's back to being kind of a human again. But that's kind of a nice bonus. Maybe that'll help deal with the fact that he could. How many people does it take to fill a building like that? He had to have killed thousands by himself. I mean, I know his group killed thousands and tens, but he had to personally have killed thousands.
Easily.
That's a lot of killing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of killing.
Yeah.
Old school. I mean, that's old school.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying it back to the Bible. We got a judge, and Samson beat down a group of 1,000 folks with a jawbone of an ass. So I could see it probably being way more than 1,000 to fill up this building.
That's a heck of a jawbone.
It's a heck of a jawbone.
How'd that thing stay intact?
Yes, sir. I'm sure that was a gift. Also, it's like we'll let it stick together while I give you the strength to whoop them.
Gruntle's eyes saw differently. Unhuman acuity, motion, no matter how slight or peripheral, caught his attention, filled his awareness. Judged inconsequential or defined as threat, prey, or unknown. Instinctive decisions yet no longer buried deep, now lurking just beneath the surface of his mind. He could feel his every muscle, every tendon and bone, could concentrate on each one to the exclusion of all the others, achieving a spatial sensitivity that made control absolute. Sounds like a Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
Or Cat's Bene Gesserit.
I think so. When they've got their acts together, yes.
They have the voice. They're programmed to use the voice.
Dude, those guys.
You know how they imitate that perfect frequency that gets humans to react? Yes. It's like something that babies make.
Dude, yes.
It's the voice.
Yes. It's the voice. You're right, it is the voice. It mimics distress, and it makes us long to comfort them somehow. And it's like, dude, you are something else, man. You guys are some manipulating sons of guns.
That's crazy. We need some t-shirts for that. Bene Gesserit cats. Gruntle could walk a forest floor in absolute silence, if he so wished. He could freeze, shielding even the breath he drew, and become perfectly motionless. But the changes he felt were far more profound than these physical manifestations. The violence residing within him was that of a killer. Cold and implacable, devoid of compassion or ambiguity. And this realization terrified him. He thought, the tiger of summer's mortal sword. Yes, Trake, I feel you. I know what you have made of me. Damn it, you could have at least asked.
There you go. He knows what's been done to him.
Yeah. He looked upon his followers, knowing them to be precisely that, followers, his very own sworn. An appalling truth, among them Stani Menakis. He thought, no, she isn't Trake's. She's chosen Karuli's elder god. Good. If she was ever to kneel before me, we wouldn't be thinking religious thoughts. And how likely is that? Alas. He sensing his gaze, she looked at him. Gruntle winked. Her brows rose, and he understood her alarm, making him even more amused. His only answer to his terror at the brutal murder hiding within him. She hesitated, then approached and said, Gruntle? Gruntle said, I feel like I've just woken up. Stani said, yeah, well, the hangover shows, believe me. Gruntle asked, what's been going on? Stani said, you don't know? Gruntle said, I think I do, but I'm not entirely sure of myself, of my own memories. We defended our tenement, and it was uglier than what's between Hood's toes. You were wounded, dying. That Malazan soldier there healed you. And there's Akovian. The priest in his arms has just turned to dust. Gods, he must have needed a bath. Stani said, Beru fend us all. It really is you, Gruntle. I thought you were lost to us for good. Gruntle said, I think a part of me is, lass, lost to us all. Stani asked, since when were you the worshipping type? Gruntle said, that's the joke on Trake. I'm not. He's made a terrible choice. Show me an altar and I'm more likely to piss on it than kiss it. Stani said, you might have to kiss it, so I suggest you reverse the gestures. Gruntle said, ha ha. He shook himself, rolling his shoulders, and sighed. Stani recoiled slightly at the motion. She said, that was too cat-like for me. Your muscles rippled under that barbed skin. Gruntle said, and it felt damn good. Rippled? You should be considering new possibilities, lass. Stani said, keep dreaming, oaf. The banter was brittle, and they both sensed it. She was silent for a moment, then the breath hissed between her teeth. She said, "Buke, I guess he's gone." Gruntle said, "No, he's alive. Circling overhead right now, in fact. That sparrowhawk. Caruli's gift to help the man keep an eye on Corball Brooch. He's soul-taken now." Stani was glaring skyward, hands on her hips. She said, "Well, that's just great!" Then swung a venomous look upon Caruli, who was standing well off to one side, hands within sleeves, unnoticed, watching all in silence. She exclaimed, "Everybody gets blessed but me! Where's the justice in that?" Gruntle said, "Well, you're already blessed with incomparable beauty, Stani." She cut him off. "Another word and I'll cut your tail off. I swear it." Gruntle said, "I haven't got a tail." She said, "Precisely," then faced him and went on. "Now listen, we've got something to work out. Something tells me that for both of us, heading back to Darujistan isn't likely, at least not for the next while anyway. So, now what? Are we about to part ways, you miserable old man?" Gruntle said, "No rush on all that, lass. Let's see how things settle." Someone said, "Excuse me." Both turned at the voice to find that Rath Trake had joined them. Gruntle scowled at the masked priest. He said, "What?" Rath Trake said, "I believe we have matters to discuss, you and I, Mortal Sword." Gruntle said, "You believe what you like. I've already made it plain to the whiskered one that I'm a bad choice." Rath Trake seemed to choke. He sputtered, The whiskered one?" Dude, I love that. That's so good.
Oh, man. I do too. I laugh at this Rath Trake Joker. He's just seriously, obviously, he is not a cat person. He would not make a good cat. He's way too uptight, man.
Stani laughed and clouted the priest on the shoulder. She said, "He's a reverent bastard, ain't he just?" Gruntle growled, "I don't kneel to anyone, and that includes gods. And if scrubbing would do it, I'd get these stripes off my hide right now." Rath Trake rubbed his bruised shoulder, the eyes within the feline mask glaring at Stani. At Gruntle's words, he faced him again and said, "These are not matters open to debate, Mortal Sword. You are what you are." Gruntle said, "I am a caravan guard captain, and damn good at it. When I'm sober, that is." Rath Trake said, "You are the master of war in the name of the Lord of Summer." Gruntle said, "We'll call that a hobby." Rath Trake exclaimed, A what?" They heard laughter. Perrin, still crouching beside Etkovian, was looking their way, and had clearly heard the conversation. He grinned at Rath Trake and said, "It never goes how you think it should, does it, priest? That's the glory of us humans, and your new god had best make peace with that, and soon. Gruntle, keep playing by your own rules." Gruntle said, "I hadn't planned otherwise, Captain. How fares the shield anvil?" Etkovian glanced over and said, "I am well, sir." Stani said, "Now that's a lie." Etkovian said, "None the less," accepting Mallet's shoulder as he slowly straightened. Gruntle looked down at the two white cutlasses in his hands. He muttered, "Hood take me, but these have turned damned ugly." He forced the blades into their scarred, tattered sheaths. Rath Trake snapped, "They are not to leave your hands until this war is done." Gruntle said, "Another word from you, priest, and you'll be done." The gods sure are having a tough time finding good work in this generation, aren't they?
Yeah, same old problem.
Kids nowadays. No one wants to work anymore.
Nope. Nope. Not at all.
Back in my day.
I want to put the 150 hours in. Yeah.
No one else had ventured onto the plaza. Picker stood with the other bridge burners at the alley mouth, trying to determine what was going on. Conversations surrounded her, as the soldiers conjectured in time-honored fashion, guessing at the meaning of the gestures and muted exchanges they witnessed among the dignitaries. Picker glared about and said, "Blend, where are you?" Blend said, "Here," at Picker's shoulder. Picker said, "Why don't you sidle out there and find out what's happening?" Blend shrugged and said, "I'd get noticed." Picker said, "Really?" Blend said, "Besides, I don't need to. It's plain to me what's happened." Again, Picker said, "Really?" Blend made a wry face. She said, "You lose your brain when you gave up those torques, Corporal? Never seen you so consistently wide-eyed before." Again, Picker said, "Really?" This time in a dangerous drawl. She said, "Keep it up and you'll regret it, soldier." Blend said, "An explanation? All right, here's what I think I've been seeing. The Grey Swords had some personal business to clear up, which they've done. Only it damn near ripped that commander to pieces. But Mallet, drawing on Hood knows whose powers, has lent some strength, though I think it was the captain's hand that brought the man back from the dead. And no, I never knew Perrin had it in him. And if we've been thinking lately that he was more than just a willow-spined noble-born officer, we've just seen proof of our suspicions. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for us. He won't stick a sword in our backs, Corporal. He might just step in front of one heading our way, in fact. As for Gruntle, well, I think he's just shaking himself awake. And that masked priest of Trakes ain't happy about it, but no one else gives a damn, because sometimes a smile is precisely what we all need." Picker's reply was a grunt. I think this is a really big turning point for the squad's perception of Perrin. The fact that they think he'll step between them and danger to protect them is a great sign.
It is, and I'm mildly annoyed by this because I thought we had kind of come to this at the end of Gardens of the Moon. I forgot we kind of Netflix this one here, which is, I'm talking about how Netflix runs their series. So they have a format of their series. Like, I thought we'd already dealt with this batch here, but we weren't dealing with this precise group of bridge burners that we're dealing with Perrin so much. So that may be the difference in it, but I hope that we're done with this. I'm like you. I feel like Perrin is now truly one of the guys, but I hope we don't have to go through this again.
Yeah, the only people he interacted with were the people in Darujhistan. Picker and Nancy and all them, they never saw any of that.
That's right. And I agree. It's a big turning point, and this should make it smoother sailing, at least on not worrying about getting a knife in your back from your own bunch now. And maybe we'll get rid of this silly ulcer.
Yeah, we got to get that dealt with.
Yes.
Blend continued, and finally, after watching all that, it's time for Humbrol and his Barghast. Humbrol had raised his axe high and had begun walking towards the Thrall's Gate. War chief and shouldermen and women emerged from the gathered tribes, crossing the plaza in his wake. Tross pushed his way through the knot of bridge burners and joined them. Staring at his back, Picker snorted. Blend murmured, "He goes to meet his gods. Give him that, Corporal." Picker said, "Let's hope he stays with them. Hood knows he don't know how to command." Blend said, "But Captain Perrin does." Picker glanced at her companion, then shrugged and said, "I suppose he does at that." Blend continued in a low tone, "Might be worth cornering Ansi and anyone else who's been talking through their cracks of late." Picker said, "Cornering, aye, then beating them senseless. Sound plan, Blend. Find us Deterin. Seems we got personal business, too, to clear up." Blend said, "Well, guess your brain's working after all." Picker's only reply was another grunt. Blend slipped back into the crowd. Picker thought, "Personal business. I like the sound of that. We'll straighten him up for you, Captain. Hood knows. It's the least I can do." I love that he's won them over now, and that's even to the point that they're advocating for him as well with the others.
I know it. I love it, dude.
Quote-unquote really advocating.
Yeah.
The beatings will continue until morale improves.
Yes. Yeah.
Circling high overhead, the sparrowhawk's sharp eyes missed nothing. The day was drawing to a close, shadows lengthening. Banks of dust on the plain to the west revealed the retreating Panions, still being driven ever westward by elements of Humbrol Baran clan. In the city itself, still more thousands of Barghast moved through the streets, clearing away dead, whilst tribes worked to excavate vast pits beyond the north wall, which had begun filling as commandeered wagons began filing out from Kapustan. The long, soul-numbing task of cleansing the city had begun. I was surprised that the Barghast are taking it upon themselves to clean the city up.
Yes, me too, but I think there's also one thing I didn't think about is they're here to see their god's bones. So that may have them be like, you know what, we need to make sure this place is cleaned up. Out of reverence, possibly.
Yeah, maybe that's part of it, is they feel they owe the city something.
Yeah, possibly so.
Directly below, the plaza's expanse was now threaded with figures, Barghast moving in procession from streets and alley mouths, following Humbrol as the war chief approached the Thrall's Gate. The sparrowhawk that had once been Buke heard no sound but the wind, lending the scene below a solemn, ethereal quality. Nonetheless, the raptor drew no closer. Distance was all that kept it sane, was all that had been keeping it sane since the dawn. From here, far above Kapustan, vast dramas of death and desperation were diminished, almost into abstraction. Tides of motion, the blurring of colors, the sheer muddiness of humanity all diminished, the futility reduced to something strangely manageable. Burned-out buildings, the tragic end of innocence. Wives, mothers, children, desperation, horror, and grief. The storms of destroyed lives. No closer. Wives, mothers, children, burned-out buildings. No closer. Ever again. The sparrowhawk caught an updraft, swept skyward, eyes now on the livening stars as night swallowed the world below. There was pain in the gifts of the elder gods, but sometimes there was mercy. Buke was already in so much pain, I guess it makes sense for him to choose to forget himself and become an animal.
Yeah, I agree. In a way, I kind of hope this is the last we see of Buke, just because I don't want to see anything bad happen to him. I kind of hope this is a happily ever after for Buke.
Yeah, that he's finally able to feel some peace, because he was a tortured soul. He was looking for a way out.
Yes.
And thus the chapter ends.
Wow.
Very eventful chapter.
Big time eventful. It felt like a conclusion to the book. Eventful.
Well, in a way, we've been building up to this, and now we have to see what happens next, right? So it was kind of a climax, the conclusion of that segment.
Yes.
For standout moments, The Barghast recognizing the Grey Sword's actions in defending Kapustan and saluting them.
Yes, very touching, and I liked it the same way that Hood showed up for Brukelian, right?
Oh yeah, Hood showed up for Brukelian. Yes, that's correct.
I found that very touching. At least I'm hoping it's a touching moment, respect moment, and I found that very similar type thing. Like the Barghasts were just so impressed, they kind of they took a moment there and gave even a salute when they met that group. It was very touching.
Mm-hmm. The cold justice delivered to Rathfainer by Kovian, and the following incident after his hands disappeared.
Oh, that's absolutely horrific, dude. Grueling horrific.
I still struggle with that one.
Yeah, that's tough.
Finding out that Kovian wasn't going to leave Rathfainer's soul to whichever malevolent god took his hands, or perhaps benevolent, but unable to be compatible in the realm.
Yeah. That doesn't line up with our
the software wouldn't install.
Here, but
it was designed for a Mac and trying to install it on Windows.
Yes. Quick. The news QuickTime update didn't take for the Windows.
We had an incompatibility in the software layer.
Yeah. That's more of like a kernel issue. If it's gonna make a guy burn down to his core. Like
the CPU overvolted and fried itself.
Yeah. That's a bad one, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrific, man.
Yeah. Oh. He just had this good software. He was just trying to share it with him, you know?
Yeah. He should have got, oh my gosh, what is that? That was, you ever see the South Park episode where they get they're trying to install, they're putting the software upgrade for the software. There's the software that runs the school, and all you got to do is keep upgrading the package. You keep upgrading the package. That's the whole episode is about upgrading the package. They're not getting anything. It's like, so yeah, all you got to do is upgrade the Centurion package.
Kovian embracing Rathfainer and then follow on embracing that entity that had taken the hands. Then all of those that died in Kapustan. He's unstoppable.
Dude, yeah. What is this going to equal to? I'm curious how this power is going to manifest. What is it? What is going on here? How is he able to consume all this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And not be. We'll find out. I'm guessing.
Gruntle finally coming back to his senses, then referring to Trake as the Whiskered One.
Dude, absolutely amazing. I think the best part of that one is Trake got that Walter Sobchak reaction about, like, am I the only one that cares about the rules, to the Whiskered One kind of insult. It's not an insult, it's just what it is, but it's like, he's that incensed, shall we say.
You're out of your element.
So it's a Sobchakian reflex.
Yeah. Blen noting that Perrin would likely step between the bridge burners and danger. It's a big step forward.
Dude, big step forward with that bunch. So I think that he's now going to be considered one of the boys, or guys, whatever, one of the bridge burners.
If he's not now, he will be after Picker and Blen go around attending to personal business within the squad.
Yes, with Deteran's heavy hand lended on that one. Yeah. I was like, wow, you're going to break someone's jaw that way.
Oh, that and worse, possibly.
Yes.
Finally, Buke choosing to abandon his humanity.
You know, in a weird way, I think this is about as closest thing as we're going to get to a happy ending in this series, even though it's not really over. But at least for Buke, and I'm happy that he chose this for some reason.
I agree. All right, great job tonight, Billy.
Hey, man, yeah, great episode, man. Really dug it.
You got any final thoughts before we drop off here?
Yeah, what a heavy ending. And also, just what a great ending to this chapter. But they got that lovely little note of hope as Buke embraces his new life. I'm always a fan of a redemption story. But Buke flying off is kind of a nice breath of fresh air before I'm assuming things are about to get really nasty. Because you know Mr. Erikson. He's just letting us catch our breaths. I mean, dude, I felt like this almost felt like the end of the book. And it's like, nope. No, it's building up to a nasty end.
Yeah, the bird flying away definitely feels like a season finale almost.
Yes,
the visual
does.
It
does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. So it's kind of like, you're just toying with us, Mr. Erikson. Shame on you, sir.
Well, there's so many loose threads right now. It's more like a mid-season finale.
This is true. It's a mid-season finale, yeah. You're right. Mm.
All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Hey, we'll see y'all next week.
We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we'd really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.